Our NFL draft preview series continues with Nakobe Dean, Georgia inside linebacker, one of the more decorated players in college football, really over the last 3 years. I'm Dayne Young. That's Brent Rollins. We are doing a series to see where we think Georgia players will be drafted in the NFL draft. Going to be a lot of guys drafted to NFL teams from the national champions. And Brent Nakobe Dean, a leader multiple years on this Georgia defense.
Yeah, instantly play as a freshman, and you could see why, just from a mental aspect and how he plays. But also, you talked about the accolades. Think about it. He really might have been the most decorated or best player on the nation's best team. And when you think about all the guys that are going to be drafted from this team, that's saying something. Now, obviously, we did a little bit earlier look because we think the athletic traits of Trayvon Walker are going to make him picked a little higher. But when we look at big boards for Nakobe Dean with Dane Brugler, Daniel Jeremiah, and then PFF, 20th, 7th, 14th. A lot of other prospects, there's a big spread, big difference in where these guys rank them, not with him.
Middle of the first round kind of guy, 6 foot, 225 pounds, like you said, very productive multi-year starter for the Bulldogs. He's from Horn Lake, Mississippi. Engineering was what he studied. 2-time Butkus Award winner. I say it that way because he won it in high school for the best high school linebacker, then won it in college in 2021 as the best college linebacker. Really could do it all. And this is a legacy of inside linebackers at Georgia. He not coming too far after Roquan Smith. He's the next of a legacy of Georgia linebackers going to the pros. And frankly, there's a good shot that 3 inside linebackers for Georgia could get drafted if you're talking about all 7 rounds.
100%. All 3 of them are going to go. He's always going to go the highest. And when the thing that everybody talks about is very real with him, the mental aspect of his game. I'm very intrigued to see how he tests out at the combine just because he plays so fast. And a lot of that is because of upstairs. And when you see guys who play as freshmen, outside of being just the most physically gifted person there, like a la George Pickens, it's because, and especially on Georgia's defense and the way Kirby's recruited and the way that Kirby has done things defensively with them, you're playing because of the ability that you have upstairs. And, no better than his highest graded play of the season to start.
When you talk about GOATs in sports, you talk about, and I'm not saying he's Michael Jordan in football, don't get me wrong, but what they say about Michael Jordan, he made the people around him better. Nakobe Dean made so many players on Georgia's defense better because not only could he cover for mistakes that they made, but he could open up opportunities for them because he covered so much.
Yep. And speaking of coverage, this was a very nice nail in the first half coffin of the Florida game.
Yeah, and people in this game, until close to the end of the first half, it was tight. Georgia needed a run here, and this was.
And that's seeing it. That's seeing the route exploding. Obviously, the ability to catch the ball. Like I said, I'm very intrigued to see what he tests out, like the 40. I don't know that he's gonna. It's going to be solid. What's always interesting is that people think if you don't run a 4.4, you're slow. Like, no, if you look at averages for a variety of positions, it's right around in the 4.5, 4.55, 4.6 range. And I think that's probably what he ends up in that realm, around like 4.55, something like that. But, 4.6, even at that. But still, the ability to play the game that much faster because of how you think and because of how you process allows you to make great big time plays like this.
Yeah, as offensive coordinators do a lot of things to try to get a matchup on a linebacker down on the bottom of the field like this. This is a running back here. And so Nakobe Dean would be the guy that goes and splits out with a running back after they come in motion down to the bottom of the screen. And this is just not a good play from Florida's quarterback, Anthony Richardson, but a great one from Nakobe Dean.
Yep. See it, go get it. Great stuff from him. And that's, it's interesting when we think about the first 3 plays that we're going to highlight, and we're going to go back to his freshman season in 2019. They're all in coverage. And if you're playing linebacker in the NFL right now, you have to be able to cover. No if and it's not like, hey, you play the run on first and second down and then the coverage guy comes in. No, you have to be able to cover every down in the NFL all the time.
This is the SEC championship game against LSU. And frankly, for my money, I think this LSU offense was the best in the history of college football. Number one overall draft pick and Heisman Trophy winner in Joe Burrow. This is a first-round running back in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who that particular season was the best, I think, receiving running back in college football, one of the best in recent years. And this is a freshman, Nakobe Dean, lined up across from him. I've mentioned this play for like 3 years on podcasts, so it just delights me that we get to feature it one more time.
Well, it's phenomenal. And it's not so much about, obviously, the initial thing was not there. He's just kind of hanging with him. But it's he makes a move and gets seen late. And the ability to close, knock down the ball just like you'd see from cornerback, phenomenal work from him.
Well, and you mentioned how smart he is as a player. You know, some other players around football would say, "Oh, that play's not coming to me. It's dead. Running back's just staying here." Nakobe stays with it, makes a play, and Joe Burrow extended plays quite often. This is a reason why you have to stick with it.
Yep, and then the next one against Tennessee is even more so. Well, let's take a look. One last look. Phenomenal, like there, front hand, back hand, ready to tackle, perfect. Here, running the route. This is closing. I think this was third down, actually. Got him, and you think, all right, from an offensive coordinator's perspective, I got a receiver on the linebacker, one-on-one in coverage, tight end even, I think is that for Tennessee. And the size difference, you think that should be a win. But no, he's right there, gets his hands up through the catch point. Phenomenal job of playing the coverage, the route itself, closing, boom. Great job.
Really good body control, great hands here to not draw pass interference, anything like that. Plays the ball. Just really good, I would say, balance and body control. Both of those things is something that Nakobe Dean showed for 3 years at Georgia.
Yeah, and now in 2020, his one a little bit of a down year for him, especially in coverage. His coverage grade went down into the upper 50s. But this past year, 90.7 coverage grade, 41.7 passer rating into his coverage. That pass breakup we saw, the interception, and a couple other interceptions one other interception he had. His freshman year, 72.5 grade in coverage, 44.3 passer rating allowed. So statistically, and just his ability to cover for the most part in the entirety of his career, second to none at the linebacker position.
I thought that in his junior year, Georgia's national championship season, we saw a much more aggressive pursuing Nakobe Dean, especially when it came to pass rush. But one thing, and Tennessee found this out the hard way on this play, if you leave him unblocked, he is agile enough, he's got good enough feet, he'll get in the backfield very, very quickly. And Tennessee left him unblocked intentionally, right? Trying to attack this side of the field. Yeah. Doesn't matter.
No, chasing down from behind and finished. And that's one of the things, when you look at now granted over his career, he missed right around 20 tackles, right around 10% of his tackle attempts. But it wasn't a lot of open field type things. It was in the box that we're going to see at the end of this series of clips that we have. If he got that guy, the quarterback or any sort of guy in space, he brought him down. And that ability to tackle was very much the Roquan Smith ability type-esque ability that people saw from him as well.
This against Clemson in the opening game, a game that was tight the whole time, and Georgia needed every ounce of defensive momentum.
Yeah, and this was, just unbelievable next level pass rusher skills from him this season. He took it to a whole nother level as a pass rusher, ability to find the smallest crease and then accelerate and finish. He had 31 quarterback pressures on only 121. So he was 3 off the team lead on 3 times as less. Like we looked at Trayvon Walker first. He had 34 on 381. Nakobe had 31 pressures on 121, 260 less pass rush snaps. Now, granted, obviously, it's blitzing situations that are typically advantageous for linebackers. But his ability to find creases and then accelerate, finish, next level.
Georgia allowed him to play a bit closer to the line of scrimmage in his junior season, I thought. And Georgia was rewarded for it because of what you're saying. He would bounce on his feet. He would make sure that he could see what's going on in front of him, see, attack, and he's fast enough. Really tough to get in front of him.
Yeah, anytime a running back tried to block him, it did not end well for the opposing offense. Here, this is beating the center. This is not just beating a back or beating somebody else. This is just speed, and then also finding a crease, and then a little bit of bend, kind of some edge work, like you would traditionally see from an edge pass rusher, fighting through, ripping through with your left inside arm, and then finishing on a really big quarterback, causing a fumble too.
Using the leverage, making sure you get the big guy to the ground, really good at wrapping up at the point of attack.
Now, phenomenal as a blitzer, phenomenal in coverage, very solid and very, very good in run defense. He wasn't elite from a grading perspective in run defense, but and this is, if there is one thing that is going to have him fall toward, to me, the later part of the first round. I don't see him getting out of the first round.
And before you even say this, I'm going to preface, we're saying the one thing that he really needs to work on, because otherwise, I think his first round pick, if he drops, then someone's got a gem in the second round.
No, yeah, I definitely don't see him dropping out of the first round, but it's some teams higher in the round it's actually something he can't fix. Because he can't fix his size. Like, you look at the last 4 to 5 years of NFL draft picks at linebacker. Like last year, 6'4", 250, 6'4", 230, like big, huge guys you haven't seen, like since Patrick Queen at LSU was under 6'2". Devin Bush, who in our PFF draft guide, that's his comp. I think was a great comp, by the way, out of Michigan. Was 5'11", right at 6 foot. I bet Nakobe measures 5'11" and some change, that kind of thing. Just sheer size. And the other part is when you look at this play specifically, look at the Florida play specifically. Who do you not see on the field? You don't see Jordan Davis.
Big Jordan Davis, 99.
You see 97, Warren Brinson, who's getting pushed back like 3 yards by the center, or the right guard actually. So in Georgia's defense, Nakobe was very protected in the run game because of the immense talent and the size, and Jordan Davis and Devontae White and those guys' ability on the interior, Jalen Carter as well, to occupy blockers. It's not as much, you can't necessarily, you'd like to do that in the NFL, but a lot of times it doesn't work out that way. And what do you see here? He kind of gets lost in traffic. And by the way, this is another one of those good on good. Damian Pierce was the highest graded running back in the SEC this year and forced missed tackles like crazy. And he's a big, strong guy. A lot of what you see in the NFL, basically. And this is the one thing, if there is one thing where it's going to cause some teams pause, and maybe if you see him in the 20s get picked, it's because of this reason.
Well, and in this particular play, this is a poor first step. He recovers pretty nicely to have an opportunity to make the play, but you've got help out here with Quay Walker. So you see the cutback lane on the inside. Occupy this.
Yep.
Now, maybe he's saying if he bounces out here, then I have to help with that. Otherwise, there's no one. So, these are the instant things, and he's one of the smartest players I've ever seen play. I'm just saying that if this first step is a bit more shaded to the inside here, he's in position to make the tackle, even being a little undersized.
Yep. And it's, again, you get kind of lost a little bit, and then you're there, and you slide off of the gap. And by the way, are we nitpicking here?
Oh, yeah.
100%. 100% nitpicking.
But none of these guys are perfect. Whoever is going to go number one in this draft is not a perfect player.
And this draft, to me, unlike any draft really since maybe 2013, I've seen this draft kind of comp to 2013 a lot, where you don't have just elite level quarterback play. It's kind of a, hey, I like this guy, or one team likes that guy kind of thing. You're going to see a lot of guys who are picked in the 30s and 40s who end up being better players than the guys that were picked in the 20s. But to me, he's those kind of sure things. You know what you're going to get from him. And this is another one where, hey, it's just you got a one-on-one block with an offensive lineman, and it's in a tough situation for him because he's not 6'4", 240. He's not that size. He's not like Quay Walker from a size perspective. And it gets a little bit handled here, not greatly handled, but it's just enough for a one-on-one block in a situation like that. And that's, again, these last two plays are the, hey, as an NFL team, and by the way, what do you think the NFL teams do? they nitpick the absolute. I don't know what are these guys.
I mean, they treat them like cattle when they run through the combine,
Right? Like in draft day, they're seeing it. If anybody went to their 21st birthday, like party, like anything and everything about these kids, the NFL is going to look at. And this is one thing, his size, which, by the way, did not hamper him in any way, being a phenomenal player at Georgia. And we're talking about a top 20 likely pick, but it is one of those things where he's going to have to work around it in the league. And then also it might cause him to slide just a little bit in that first round.
I put these lines here just so you understand the unenviable situation that Nakobe Dean found himself in on this play, where a big center from Arkansas, this is Sam Pittman, and then a big quarterback. I'm not saying the center Sam Pittman. I'm saying it's the Sam Pittman team. They're all going to be big. They're all going to be hog mollies. Let me make sure people don't think that I don't know about Arkansas. Obviously, I do. Here's KJ Jefferson, and yeah, he's a big guy too. Nakobe Dean's on an island here and trying to do the best he can. Really tough position. He still gets a hand on Jefferson.
Yep. And solid. That guy's a big dude. Big dude.
Because your whole goal there is like, let me slow him down until some help arrives.
And it's third down too. You're thinking pass, and they run the QB draw.
Yeah, it happens, and that's going to happen in the NFL too. Those, a couple plays that not his best, but plenty that were, because he was just an elite player at Georgia for multiple years. I start thinking about like Nakobe Dean. This is a game we play. Like, what's he feel like? What jersey would he kind of fit in? And when I think about Nakobe, I'm kind of seeing some Philadelphia Eagles.
I mean, they got 3 in the first round, and
they got to go somewhere.
And if you look at sort of the what their team is right now, if they are sticking with Jalen Hurts at QB, like the leadership part of it, the mental and all the things that go with that. I mean, to me, I don't see him getting past Dallas at 24. I think that's like Micah Parsons could be sort of a true edge guy now from now on for them, and then they look to replace him at the linebacker spot. Or even Buffalo at 25. I don't see like those two teams. To me, he adds a lot of value because of what they have along the defensive line in front of it as well. But I do think he goes earlier. I think, like you said, Philly 15-16 range. I mean, I've seen him mocked in the 10-11 or even 10-11th. I think as high as 11th I've seen him. So he's going to go somewhere in that first round. Just depends on who takes a liking to him.
Some of these really, really good NFL teams that may just be a piece away, or maybe just could use a little extra help. He could be the perfect guy to really supplement on defense. I think of how the Buccaneers drafted Devin White just in a perfect situation. I know he went super high, but then you think about how the Kansas City Chiefs added Nick Bolton to an already good defense, and he played super well. I think Nakobe Dean, if he finds that right spot on a contender, is going to find himself making a lot of money for a lot of years, and maybe even one of those guys that plays his whole career with one team. I think he's that kind of special talent.
And picking 21st, a known aficionado of Georgia football players, Mr. Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots.
Not quite the factory that Joe Judge and the Giants were doing, where it's like if you stroll through Athens, we'll give you a shot. But we'll have to see who's going to be the new darling of all these Bulldogs, because, I mean, we'll see how many of these guys get drafted. Georgia, I don't know that they'll set the new record, but they're going to be flirting with it for most players drafted.
100%. They're breaking that record. Right. 9 last year. It was 9. I could see 10, 11 going in the 10. I could see 10 going in the first 3 rounds, maybe even 11.
I want to proceed with caution because you never know. I think that's going to be the case too, but we are a UGA channel, and so I don't want the people that come find us to say, "Oh, look at those homers." Georgia won the title. I'll say that.
I mean, they're the champs. Like, people know how good their defense was.
That's Nakobe Dean, and that's Brent Rollins. He's from Pro Football Focus. I'm Dayne Young from UGAsports.com. We'll continue with this NFL draft series. So we're doing these in order of how we think these guys will go in the draft. So our prediction for Georgia players, Trayvon Walker will be the first selected. Nakobe Dean will be the second. Who will be the third? We'll have to find out next time here on our UGA Sports YouTube channel. If you will subscribe, you will be sure that you're in the loop for our NFL draft series, and we'll keep trucking along to the draft and then do probably a good recap, maybe 2 if it's far beyond that record breaking and we need to split it up into multiple ones. That's Brent Rollins. I'm Dayne.